Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? Yes, I love this center here. Yes. Everyone, how y'all doing? Woo! Good. My name is Robert Karimi. I am the host of the Lowertown Reading Jam. You are here tonight on this lovely evening. I'm going to introduce our host and curator of the night. Before I get to it, I'm just going to do a little warm-up of the mic. Just because just got back from the World Cup in Brazil, but something else has been bothering me, and I just need to do something very small, dedicated to crank callers everywhere, especially ones that are assigned to do things by Mr. Benjamin, and he knows who he is. Crank callers do this. Oh, baby. Crank callers do this. You know, we're gonna come over and we're gonna kick your. Crank callers do this. You have 10 minutes. You have women and children in the house? Get out. You have 5 minutes before the rockets come. Crank callers say they are doing us a favor and being humanitarian. I'd like to thank Mr. Benjamin for making telemarketers seem more humanitarian than roof knockers ever could be. Started by our host curator, Dreams of the Beginning of the Beginning. Correct? Did I do that right? Yes. And our host would like to start off with these 3 words to set the tone of the Dreams of the Beginning of the Beginning, because these are the ways we are going to introduce her onto stage, and I want a lot of energy on the stage. I know we are only 100 people here, but we're going to be 300. So our beloved host is Mankwe Ndosi. The 3 words that describe her are beloved, uncomfortable, and fluid resilient. That's one word. Fluid resilient. So please, give it up for Mankwe. Give it up for her.
I wanted to ask folks we do not hear from enough how to get us out of the matrix, how to dream another living, how to be where we take care of each other. And the first one we will hear from is my teacher, is my poet, jazz to be jazz to be jazz to be making new meaning, new definitions. Mr. Stanley Kusunoki.
Oh, I'm done. Shoo. Well, I'm going to be reading some poems. 4 of them are new, and 1 of them is 19 years old, but still applies. Think of them as a suite, and this is the prelude. Very recently, one of my students, I'm a teacher, invited me to his house because they were going to have homemade fireworks. And they had like 4 big 12-foot tables full of fireworks, okay? We had to leave, man. There was so much smoke going on. And they were still shooting off. So it was like 2 hours worth of fireworks. And so this inspired the poem. Oddly, fireworks. Bam, 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 bam. The Dow hits 1700. Bam, 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 bam. Fireworks, fountains of sparks send investors to check their gains. Bam, 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 bam. Fireballs and spinners, smiles all around. Bam, 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 bam. And when the smoke clears, we look around at the backyard launch sites, tables covered with ash and match heads, surrounded by mortar detritus, smoldering bits and cardboard cadavers, empty holes where the sparks went through, the trickle down of burnt dreams that seem so awesome in the night. Thank you. This next one has a little bit of audience participation, and since I know we're not quiet, shy Minnesotans, I really expect, yeah, and you'll know when it is, okay? This is called No Missionary Baskets. Classism and greed are making insignificant all the other kinds of isms. Ruby D. Ruby got it right. What difference where your roots are if the last food you had was greasy scrapings behind the best steakhouse? What difference who you pray to when you live in shantytown or worse, under a bridge? The irony of scrabbling in the change for the shadows of downtown where the 1% do their business. What difference a Ford, a Chevy, or Dodge if they can't get you into the doctor's office? What difference if you are the 1 in 7 living in poverty in the land of free if you have 7 digits in your yearly income? What difference then? We are past the time for missionary baskets, said Andrew Young. What good is today's handout the day after tomorrow? No, we, the 99%, must link arms and network. And I do mean network as in the movie. As in, we are mad as hell and we are not going to take it anymore. Can you say it?
Yeah, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore.
Can you say it?
We are mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore.
Feels good?
Yeah.
Not as good as it will feel when everyone gets their fair share for the labor of their bodies and their minds, when every child has an equal chance to develop their bodies and minds, regardless of the isms, the neighborhoods or cultures they are born into. What difference then? Now, since we are a broad-minded, objective group of people, we're going to hear from the other side. I almost said dark side, but that would be placing a little editorialism there. We want to be sort of objective.
I want to move this so you can be in the mic.
All right. So this is called I Am the 1%. I'm the 1%. And proud of it too. Sure, I came into some, not my fault, but I made some of it too, you know. And now you want to tell me to give it up? Kaputs to capitalism? Huh. What about my MasterCard and Visa, American Express? You want that to go away? No, you don't get it. I am bolstering your economy. My standard of living is so high, it can't help but bring you up. At least in the eyes of the rest of the world. Think, if I didn't make some calls, there would be no third sector for the guys that pay you minimum wage so you can work to put junk in the stomach of the other third shift shifts, who make things all bright and shiny for the world to see. And the third world countries, where would they be if me and my buds didn't have our villas and our vacation getaways, our many pieds on many terre? You think I would willingly give that up so you can come into my hood? So you could kids can go to the school with my kids, so you can cut across my greens on the way home? Is that what you are hallucinating on? You think that's how it's really gonna be? Well, I might as well bite the big one. Call it a day, cash in the farm, because it's not the kind of living I would care to do. In fact, I'm gonna make a call right now. Because you know something? Heaven is a gated community for good Christians like me. Hold on now. Yeah, St. Pete? Yeah, I'd like to check in, toot sweet. Yeah, What do you say? I gotta have a soul to check in? Oh, Pete, man, you are some kind of comedian. You know, a soul ain't nothing but another commodity. Man, I sold that a long time ago. Got me that place on the coast and that other one too. You know what I mean. Man, you are so funny. Have a seat in the waiting room? No, no hurry. Can I smoke? What? In a couple minutes I can? What kind of heavenly rule is that? Yeah, oh, okay. Couple of minutes, then I can smoke? What's that all about, I wonder? Well, this is one nice chair. Italian leather. Or maybe like that Chrysler guy, fine Corinthian leather. I bet that's it. Gotta have the best stuff in heaven's waiting room after all. Hey, Pete, hey, anyone around? I think you got some kind of malfunction in the AC. Hello? It's getting kind of uncomfortable in here. Thank you. How many out there know Gil Scott-Heron? Yeah, okay. If you don't, check out the album released sometime in the 70s called Winter in America. There was a brilliant song on there called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Check it out. A nod to Gil Scott-Heron, and Davu and Mankwe are going to jam with me on these last two. A nod to Gil Scott-Heron. The revolution that has been televised and publicized and ballyhooed is not the revolution. It is a death rattle. Give it your respects and let it bluster itself into oblivion. The real revolution will not need sound bites and photo ops. It will not need closed-door rumblings in carcinogenic clouds. It will not need car bombs, plutonium, assault rifles. The real revolution is as quiet as a whispered, "I love you." It is a Mexican farm laborer marrying the Vietnamese restaurateur, and their child marrying the child of an African-American teacher and Chinese reporter. And at the wedding, the Puerto Rican best man falls in love with the second-generation Hmong third bridesmaid. When bebop first hit, the old guard didn't get it. Said, "What the hell is that Chinese music?" Well, dig this. Chinese music is jazz. Japanese music is rock and roll. African music is opera. That is the real revolution. It is a myriad of earth tones, a glorious cacophony of song. It is a menu to mesmerize the taste buds. It is many languages, all understood. So, let the self-proclaimed revolutionaries stomp and bellow, and do not worry so much. It is the cry of the blue-suited Tyrannosaurus who has just realized the climate is changing. We are the revolution. We are the next step in the evolution of truly human beings being human. We are birds. Watch us fly. Okay. Oh, don't you go anywhere. This last one is a riff on John Lennon's 1971 song, Imagine, and there's another audience participation part at the end. It's a Lennon and McCartney song called The Word, and I bet you know the word, okay? It's coming up at the end. This is WWJLS. What would John Lennon say? Imagine, says John Lennon. Imagine a world where ism, ite, al, iv, ist, an, and in, ish, ease, all those suffixes that separate and divide just disappeared. Imagine what would be left. We'd have conserve, to use carefully in order to prevent loss or waste. Liber, free. Commune, to share. Social, companion, ally, associate. Imagine if we lived free to share with our companions, carefully. Imagine if all those wall-building suffixes left our lives forever, we'd be left with Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, the way, Gichimanadu, Anka Taka. Imagine if we lived by their examples and not by dogma, interpretation of false prophets for profit. Imagine, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. And my parents, my grandparents, and teachers and elders said, be careful what you say. Words can injure, words can come back and haunt you and hurt you. Words, once they see the air, cannot be swallowed back. Think first. When I was a child, I acted like a child. And my parents and grandparents and teachers and elders clicked their tongues. Fighting is not the way. Share with your brother and your sister. Let her go before you. What's your rush? Did you not think we made enough for all? When I was a child, I listened like a child, which means I really wasn't listening at all. Imagine what my parents and grandparents and teachers and elders had to say. You imagine, because I didn't hear. Now imagine all of this, those dividing words paired to the roots, their source, the things we learned as children, all rolled up together, and we lived with these things as our guides instead of euros, dollars, yen, and yuan. Imagine life in such a world, surrounded by another word John Lennon used. You know the word I'm thinking of.
Love.
And the only word is?
Love.
Say the word.
Love.
Say the word.
Love.
Now, imagine that. Thank you.
Stan Kusunoki. The outside is hot. Know how to move your body, it's hot. Know how to love yourself, it's hot. A little fidgety, blackity black, fidgety, blackity black, fidgety, blackity black, blackity black, blackity black, and play. Don't forget to play. She's coming from every which way, and you'll never know it, and you'll never expect until after it happens to you. Ms. Irna Landrum. if y'all seen that Facebook game that's happening now where people talk about how so from their city they are. And one of my friends posted, I'm so New Orleans that I make the sign of the cross before calling out an opponent in a dance battle. It's a real thing. Okay. Here we go. With my eyes closed, lying on my back, I focus intently on my breath. Buoyed by the water, I feel it surrounding my face, ever so often washing over my visage. Eyes still closed, I offer myself a little affirmation. Keep breathing. It's only water. Body afloat, eyes still closed, I take a deep breath and with my arms begin to pull myself through the ocean. I kick awkwardly, probably uselessly, but still breathing. I'm swimming. Hey girl, come back here, a voice calls out to me. It's the voice of my dear friend who is watching me in the water as I confront one of the biggest fears of my life. Just knowing she is there allows me to explore this watery space without worry, because I know with certainty she won't let me die. She won't let me die, and I see what I'm capable of when I'm a part of a community that's gracious enough to witness my fear and my failure and still hold me. I see myself anew. Days earlier, I heard the ocean call out my name, and I sat on the white sands weeping because I couldn't answer the call. I cried because the dissonance I felt was jarring and painful. I wanted nothing more than to bathe in the water I'd heard crashing against the shore all night. I feared nothing more than meeting my death there. But on this day, the spirit of the water and its pull is simply mightier than my fear. Everyone said that going to Africa would change me in untold ways, but nobody told me I'd be baptized in the ocean. Baptism is meant to be a symbol of death, burial, and resurrection. We die, wretched mortals, and arise new creatures. Old things are passed away, behold, all things are made new. I was raised Christian, but I've not been in organized fellowship for years. I grow increasingly saddened by how salvation experiences leave us willing to see ourselves, and only ourselves, as new. We look at our new hands and our new feet and feel satisfied that though we're in this sinful world, we're not a part of it. This worldview is impossible to reconcile for the wee little Irna who sang in children's choir that Jesus in me loves Jesus in you. Jesus in you loves Jesus in me. You're so easy. Y'all are great. So easy. It's easy to love. I soon learned that truthfully we weren't looking for the essential goodness. We weren't looking for the Jesus in people. You were easy to love when we could see ourselves already reflected in you. I'm called to a much higher and more profound love than that. So my thinking about the church and the ways we miss the mark has long endeared me to people from other faiths and other spiritualities. But Christians have in no way cornered the market on self-righteousness. I love my rabble-rousing, oppression-dismantling, a new world is on her way radical community. And in love, I challenge us to love more radically. Our conversion experiences, be they spiritual or political, should grab at the root of us, radically. And when we begin to transform at the root, my hope is that it opens our eyes and our hearts so radically that we not only see new possibilities in ourselves, but in the world around us, even especially with those who aren't already in our amen corner. So someone has a deeply transformative event in her life, right? She starts to think in new ways and feels joy at all these new discoveries and adamantly evangelizes within her personal circles and even with complete strangers. If people only knew what I know, she cries. And when others aren't immediately bowled over by her newly acquired wisdom, ready to sacrifice everything and take up the cause, the transformed begins to feel contempt for the hapless souls around her. They just want to wallow in their ignorance. And when I was in high school, there was this girl in my grade, Shanika Toppins, who'd recently found the Lord. I knew because she was always there to tell us that we were all on a direct path to hell. Like, you have to say the sinner's prayer or you'll go to hell. You have to stop listening to the music on the radio or you'll go to hell. No, you can't copy my homework. Cheating is a sin and we'll go to hell. She was not a popular girl. And we can laugh at Shanika's dogmatism or cringe, hoping to never encounter any such person. The kind of person who treats us like potential points on her heavenly scorecard, like currency in a capitalist expression of faith. And we can probably agree that she wasn't doing much to meet her own goal of growing the kingdom. But in our self-identified radical communities, are we all that different? If we believe that one of the horrors of capitalism is the way it arbitrarily values some life over others, then why do we subject each other to litmus tests to prove who's the most righteous, most progressive, radicalist and forwardist thinker, free-range eatingest, freedomist fighter in the room? Why can we only form bonds with people who have good politics or a good analysis and dismiss the rest as too clueless or too bigoted? And if capitalism dehumanizes and categorizes people, randomly assigning value, why are we so complicit in replicating that capitalism in our activism? I've yet to meet someone whose political transformation happened in the flash, in the twinkling of an eye. I've heard stories about people feeling something in their gut that they were disturbed by for a long time before they found the language to wrap around it. I've heard stories of people completely oblivious to certain social dynamics until someone was able to explain it in a way that just clicked personally. And I've heard stories of like people hearing or reading something that quickly took root. And they continued to nourish that something through many forms of study. But I've not heard a single story about someone going to a meeting and hearing a 2-sentence analysis of structural oppression and immediately changing every previously held belief or practice in their life. And if we can recognize that each one of us has gone through a process, then why aren't we willing to honor others in their process? So at a training, a well-intentioned white lady says something so cluelessly racist that the room falls immediately silent and really loud at the same time. The well-informed white people pummel her with barbs about white privilege, and she resists. They immediately dismiss her, physically move away from her, and the room divides into good white people and bad white people. Or I'm in a panel discussion about the portrayal of blacks in the media, and the panelists absolutely bash the imagery in one film. An audience member shares that the film very accurately portrays her community life. This comment is ignored, and the conversation moves into how we need aspirational images on the screen. The room suddenly divides into middle-class Negroes and the rest of us. I could give 100 examples about how we miss opportunities when we cease to see each other as human beings. Humans with life stories full of love and hurt and pain and triumph, all of that informing our motivations. When we stop seeing each other as people and instead as concepts, clueless white person, self-loathing queer, assimilating black folk, we hurriedly dismiss people because their value to us isn't self-evident. We demonstrate the capitalist imperative to be constantly producing, and we betray our own values of having a big tent that covers 99%. Years ago, I had a boyfriend whose granddad I really loved. His name was Roger, and he's a first-generation American from a Swedish family. And he had really very little connection to his Swedish heritage, even though he grew up in a house full of Swedes. See, in pursuit of Americanness, of whiteness, he lost many things, including his own language. So when Roger found out that I really like Honeycrisp apples, every time I stopped by his house, he had one that he would polish and hand over to me. And when he knew my partner was on his way to be with me, he'd send an apple with instructions. Give this an apple, and this a kiss on the cheek to Irna. And in his attempts to show support for his grandkids' interracial relationship, Roger hilariously told me stories of every random black person he'd ever encountered in his 78-year life. He struggled to find the right words, and he ran through the catalog, black, Negro, and settled on colored? And Roger loved me. He considered me his family until the day he took his last breath, a day that I was there for. And in a different time, I would have complained to my partner that his grandfather was racist to assume any use in telling me stories about colored people. I might have endured interactions with him, but I would have missed the opportunity to be loved so deeply that he asked me to come keep him company by his bedside while he tested his blood sugar. And when I heard him complain about how many languages his official notices from the city got translated into, I would have dismissed him as xenophobic and looked past the profound pain he was in. I wouldn't have noticed that he was mourning the loss of his own language, frustrated that the rules of the game changed so much since he was young, and that now being American doesn't require forgetting everything else you ever were. It's easy to love those whose values and beliefs mirror our own. But it takes something more to acknowledge the fear and pain of the evangelical whose homophobia is informed by his belief that God is displeased with queer love, and to meet him in that fear and pain, and to speak to it rather than cast him as a villain. It requires such a fundamental faith in humanity to be endlessly curious about what lies at the root of another person. And that curiosity is critical when working to dismantle oppression. Every single systemic shift has been ushered in by people, by individuals with influence inside those systems. So radical love for individuals and radical transformation of systems is not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're really married together. And one day I'll tell you guys the story about how I went from a 3 times a week churchgoer at a Republican voting megachurch to an out and proud queer who calls herself a recovering evangelical. I won't tell that story tonight, we don't have time, but I'm saying we lose allies and we lose coalition when we judge too quickly. And just as Shanika was passionate about kingdom building, I'm committed to building communities of radical activism. And I'm not naive, we won't magically erase our struggles with and against one another, but we can foster a radicalism that tries to hold everyone in love. I believe we're more creative, more generative, and far more inclusive when we open ourselves, really open ourselves to perspectives outside our own. And we simply cannot do that if we hold each other in contempt and suspicion rather than in curiosity. We simply cannot do that if we replicate the capitalist paradigm that people only have value to us if they can efficiently produce what we desire from them. We cannot do this until we are baptized in a more radical love. Thanks.
Now we're gonna hear from a politically sexy I think Irna told us about a politically sexy situation where all of us are politically sexy. But we're hearing from the traveler now. All the way from Savoy, Sheboygan. The Karimi.
need money. We need money for the artists. Money artists and poets. We need money for the artists and poets. Hey, money for the artists. We got a lot of money from St. Paul Almanac supporting us. Us from Lowertown Reading Jam. But we need some money. Money for the artists. Artists. No. We're not begging.
We're not there yet.
No. Money. Artists. Fill. Together. Make empty. Turn into full.
You have to stay up with me and sing with me. You know those days when you feel good, but you feel bad some too. Makes you a little crazy, guilty, but now you inspire. Wandering underneath the rain of the air conditioners on the street, down in a lower town, in a lower town, makes you feel a little bit like Funkzilla. I said Funkzilla and Company do a salad.
The year is 2200. After the near depletion of Earth's natural resources, the fall of capitalism ensues. The world is in chaos, but in that chaos, a new reality is emerging.
A reality in which a free market no longer exists, where profit is no longer the end game.
A reality in which there is only the love of and for your neighbor and the welfare of your community.
In the midst of the rebirth, we stumble upon strange books, diaries of sorts, glowing. They speak. They tell stories of after the fall.
Entry 47.
Day
92.
24 hours a day,
7 days a week on public access television as we attempt to recoup our losses, our world leaders and scientists discuss the necessary steps to take in order to ensure our survival as a people. Survival. My desire that was to rise among the sheeple that we are now is a siren's beckoning that I must resist. I am bitter to this new present. This present in which we are encouraged to support each other and to work hard for each other. There is no longer a self that gains, but only a we to strive for. I am thankful for such a beautiful thing, but a bit bitter still. All of my life, I was raised to believe that if I worked hard and got ahead of the other person, there would be golden doors awaiting me. The nirvana that I chased in agony for almost all of my life is now a demon that I have to wrestle every day. Fear is a stranger to me. In a world of no own and only share, where do I belong? Entry 10, day 7.
They etch my world in lines thicker than blood. I've never managed to be below seawater, but the poverty line and I are way too familiar with each other. I still drown in social anxiety about not having enough change in my wallet for bus fare. Reminder. Privilege. Reminder. My grandfather used to sell pamphlets on the red dusty clay of streets in Berber, Sudan to pay for his school books as a child. He marched miles from a secluded rural town to a private school in the city. Reminder. 10-year-olds in maquiladora sweatshops work more than 12-hour shifts assembling computers from Macintosh Incorporated. Eyes, sunken feet, blistered, the weight of 9 siblings on their underdeveloped shoulders. Reminder. Black bodies crushed over in crowded fields, skin scathed with searing sunlight in the burning glares of their hostages. They sound of eyes gouging and screams and cracked whips and blood dripping in barnyards are the tunes of which they sway to in the morning. They never taught me that in school's. Reminder. My sole purpose in life is to buy my mother a house and a car, let her live a lavish life, lounge in luxury, eat ciabatta bread, and travel to Barbados. Reminder. We are defined by our monetary worth. Done.
Entry 1, day 1.
I am alive.
I am alone.
I've waited for this.
What is going on?
Yes. Socialism as a concept is something that I never really thought I would be around, I guess. I didn't know that this would happen. There's no exploitation. My mother is sharing things with her neighbors. My family is doing well. They're happy. This is, I don't know how to feel about this right now. This is too overwhelming. It's just, it takes me back to the time when I was 5 years old and my mother told me about a Sudanese saying. It says in Arabic, al-nabaka bagassa min nas. That means we share and split the berry with the people within the tribe, and it just feels like home. It feels so beautiful. I don't know how to feel about this anymore. This is something I've imagined from the day that I was born. I didn't know that this could happen. I didn't know that this could be something that we could live in. It's beautiful.
Don't believe what they tell you. Are you gonna be the future? Don't believe what they tell you. Do you laugh in good company? Do you laugh in good company? When you're laughing, in whose company are you laughing? Are you moving? Are you moving? Who keeps company with you? Who you keep company? Who keep company with you? Who keep company with you? Keep company with. Who keeps you laughing? Might wanna stay with them. Who keeps you laughing? Might wanna stay with them. Like Davu, Davu Seru.
here is the frame, if you will allow. So I was invited to read on the subject of life after capitalism, which most of us would probably agree means now. Okay? And I thought immediately of my family, particularly my mother's side of the family, my family. And so I prepared the following, all right? Here's the frame. As if in anticipation of something, as if, right? My family left slavery and Jim Crow for Iowa. This is before the turn of the 20th century, before the Great Migration, okay? The patriarch, my great-great-grandfather, is said to have been crazy, insane, touched, okay? He collected and traded scrap, made a living off the, I heard this word earlier, detritus, right, of Lucas County's farming and mining industries. This was better than sharecropping in Virginia. He would die in Iowa. The children followed underworld opportunity and love to the North Star State. They have yet to recover from the numerous things that ail them, but they have to. That's the frame. What follows, I think, speaks to and speaks with that frame in ways that, thank you, Mankwe, in ways that are helpful, and the poems themselves, the forms of the poems themselves, I think all demonstrate what I think is necessary for all of us to learn as we transition, okay? Notably, and this is a theme that's come up all night, love, right? Things that we should master, love, improvisation, and humor, okay? So, Isis talking syllogistically about Osiris, or of lovers, okay? Put simply, I need somebody with a strong foundation. Don't need nobody all cracked up like me. Our house be leaning. This is an improvisation on rent. When I think of this piece, I think of the epic tradition. I think of Sundiata, the old epic of Mali, and I think of Odysseus and Homer, you know, blues men in this case, wandering from home, going about through numerous trials, coming back and restoring the community, right? The nation, the community. And as an epic, it requires that I invoke the muse, all right? So this from Imamu Amiri Baraka to start. Who want the world like it is? In the last myth, the gods required the retired to earth, rendered public, unbelieved anymore, driven as if torn from their cool-tempered posts, fallen from that other celestial market, ritual closure to this. From our prophets, we hear that it has always been, so that we must remember to move, master death. More than remember, to live as if in excess of memory, touched, rent from a stone rolling the sky over a map of changes just ahead of the memory of necessity, as much as ideal, as much as another living that we don't yet know, but can remember, must. A body living, rent as possible, so much, beyond taking, just as the others whom we detainers owe no. live as if in excess of belief, a star they played from because it has always been the one tool, something keyed to move around. If we listen, enlivened by tragedy fated to an eternal delay, the feeling of a moment of giving together, to know good as good, suppose. Some way to another way, that other market, listen to, for whose sign is becoming ours, its use. Departed, scattered, their changes, heard emergent, budding irony, made sure of by madness, its change. Direction, left and or right, the last rim of the earth gives to the change of everything, outside and underlined elsewheres. As it will be very different, of necessity changed. We are, it already is, a budding flower, untorn, for someone due to that original irony. Long poem, expedited on account of you know what. Takes too much time, ain't got none, broke too.
Can I have all the poets up on stage? All the performers. Because it wasn't just poetry. Now we gotta add to this machine. And your job, as the audience participators, is imagine one thing we need to get there from here. And be ready to share it. What's one thing we need?
Love.
Memory.
Sense of humor.
Love again.
Exploration. Closeness.
Boo ba 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 boo da da, boo ba 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 doo da da.
Vulnerability.
Fierceness. Woohoo. Patience. Wisdom. Belief.
Joy. Integrity.
Momentousness.
Perseverance. Dreams. Words.
Opportunity.
Compassion. Vision.
Thought.
Laughter.
We all have to do this together.
Language.
Narrative.
Justice. Dance.
Apparently photography. Do we get everybody represented?
Zero funk. Give it up to Mankwe Ndosi and all the lovely poets. And in front of us is the art of Ken and Roberta Avador. Give it up for them. Give it up, give it up. This is the Lowertown Reading Jam. You have been part of a sound experiment, and I want you to carry that sound, that word, that everything with you all night. I want you to hug the poets. I want you to hug the cameraman. I want you to hug the artists, because this is just the beginning. We're gonna be back next month, Lowertown Reading Jam. We're not gonna be back next month. We're gonna be back in September. We're gonna be back in, October. October. We're gonna be back in October. That's right, St. Paul Almanac. Check it out.